Oh Lord, take my lips and speak through them. Take our minds and think through them. Take our hearts and set them on fire with love for you. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. It's February. It's winter. It's barren. It's cold. As we look around at the plants, it's hard to imagine green buds, much less colorful flowers. Yeah, we had a couple of nice days back there, and there's not much ice about, and the sun is actually sort of shining today. But, my friends, it's still February. So when we look around the sanctuary today, some of that February gloom seeps in. We see a lot of empty faces. The flu has felled some of our number. Sandy, Eleanor, Helen, Karen, maybe even Mark. But where are all the others? And in the end, what's going to happen to us? How long can we carry on? Gloomy thoughts. February can do that to you. This morning, let me introduce you to other folks that are asking the same kinds of questions, the same kind of hard questions. They lived in Jerusalem in the 6th century BCE, not a place or a time you should envy. A generation or two before, the Babylonian army had destroyed the city, left the temple in ruins, and marched its inhabitants off to Babylon as prisoners of war. Now, as happens with empires, eventually someone stronger emerged. This time it was the Persians who conquered the Babylonians and decided to allow the Jews to return to their home, build it up so they could tax. Oh, happy day. But for those who returned, the remnant, the flush of exhilaration soon faded. Yes, they were back in Jerusalem, but the holy city looked like a place God had forgotten. Now, the Judeans were religious. They fasted rigorously. They prayed every day. But God didn't seem to be listening to them. Listen to them whine. Why do we fast, but you do not see? Why humble ourselves, but you do not notice? Here we see them, still overwhelmed by the rubble, still vassals of someone else's empire, sitting in gloom, waiting for God to show up in power to deliver them. In fact, God does show up. Be careful what you pray for. God shows up speaking loud and clear through his prophet Isaiah. Now, as you all know, these Old Testament prophets were truth tellers. When they spoke, they cut straight to the point. We, the church, we need them. Even, may especially now. Because they point to the condition of every religious community, and they don't mince words. As you may have picked up a moment ago when Paul read the first lesson, Isaiah comes down hard on those religious Judeans, dismissing their fervent fast, insisting, one, that they can't have a relationship with God and ignore the needs of their neighbors. Two, that fasting is more than a display of piety. Three, that fasting has to do with enlarging their perimeters, with redefining their understanding of kin. Listen as God speaks through his prophet. Is this not the fast that I choose? To share your bread with the hungry, to bring the homeless poor into your house, when you see the naked to cover them, and not to ignore your kin. Now, I had not visited Loaves and Fishes for about 2.5 years, because retiring as your rector meant stepping away for a time. But 3 Saturdays ago, I was here out front, changing the message on our sign, when I realized I had to go downstairs into that closet to find the letters. What I saw when I entered the undercroft took my breath away. Instead of an empty, dark, kind of cold room, there were 12 to 15 children of varying ages playing together peacefully while their parents ate a more leisurely lunch and talked with their friends in the parish hall. They were supervised by a calm Karen Chesick. The mother of several of the children was there as well, acting as an official assistant. Without missing a beat, the woman said to me, "Hello, Pastor Ann. It's so good to see you. We've been missing you." We've been missing you. Wow. I was being welcomed back into a community that I had neglected and almost forgotten. Later outside, she and the children passed, looked up the hill at me and the sign, and shouted, "Hey, Pastor Ann, you know how I remember you? You were the scary witch at Halloween when we were all in the parish hall together." When we were all in the parish hall together. I was reminded of the words of Gregory Poy, a Jesuit priest who works with gangs in LA. He talks about a new model of church as a community of kinship and inclusion, and exquisite mutuality. He talks about a place of compassion, a place where no one is outside the circle. Quoting Dorothy Day, Boyle says, advice of Dorothy Day, "Stay close to the poor. Some essential piece of our own salvation is tied up in our proximity to those on the outskirts." Boyle might as well have quoted today's passage from Isaiah. Listen. If you offer food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light shall rise in the darkness, and your gloom shall be like the noonday. The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your needs in parched places, and make your bones strong. And you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water, whose waters never fail. Thanks be to God that somehow you knew this when you opened your doors to hungry people all those years ago. You knew it when, by the grace of God, you supported Loaves and Fishes year after year, even as there didn't seem to be enough to share. As we, and I can shift to we now because I came on the scene somewhere along here, as we began to realize that the blessing was a two-way street, boundaries began to blur. We invited and accepted support from other churches of different denominations, you know, like Presbyterians and Lutherans, and from individuals, people who had never darkened the red door upstairs. They too began to realize the strange truth that we are sent to the margins not to make a difference, but so that the folks on the margins will make us different. Today, if you go to the parish hall on every given Saturday, it's sometimes hard to discern who is in need, who is getting healed, who is serving, and who is being served. But it's not hard to see church. It's not hard to see the Spirit, feel the Spirit. Now that polyglot community is bigger than we are. Those people breaking bread downstairs are carrying us who break bread upstairs. They're sustaining us. Once more, Isaiah. If you offer your food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light shall rise in the darkness, and your gloom be like the noonday. The Lord will guide you continuously and satisfy your needs in parched places and make your bones strong, and you shall be like a watered garden, even in February. Amen.